Council, March 13, 2017. All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everybody. Please call the roll.
Mayor Delaquila.
Here.
Director Blah-Pignatello.
Here.
Councilman at Large Bicker.
Here.
Councilman at Large Kranek. Councilman at Large Traffus.
Here.
Ward 1 Councilman Biassiata.
Here.
Ward 2 Councilman Frondor.
Here.
Ward 3 Councilman Kukrow.
Here.
Ward 4 Councilman Petro.
Here.
Director of Public Service and Properties Levis.
Here.
Building Commissioner Morrow.
Councilman Kranek was unable to attend this evening's meeting. His younger brother passed away last night, so I'm going to make a motion to excuse Councilman Kranek from this meeting.
A second.
Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek. Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Councilman Kranek has been excused. First item on our agenda are opening remarks, and I have a number of things I want to say this evening. I do want to take a few minutes just to share a couple things that are happening in our city right now. This has been a very exciting time in Seven Hills.
I would motion to withdraw the. Make a motion to withdraw the absence. A second.
Okay, Law Director just said we can note that Councilman Kranek has just arrived. So, okay, thank you. All right, let me start over. There's a few things I like to say tonight before we get this meeting started. This is a very exciting time in the city of Seven Hills. 2016 was a groundbreaking year for us. Together, this council, administration, and our residents came together and literally changed the direction of our city for many years to come. After a difficult and sometimes controversial year of making reductions in our budget, consolidating some positions, and passing a fire levy and income tax restructuring, we turned the page on the past and created a new future for our city of Seven Hills. In 2016, we had a budget deficit of well over $1 million. Today, the 2017 budget will be read for its first reading, and we have a projected surplus of over $200,000. Many great things are going to be accomplished this year. We have put in motion a $3 million road resurfacing program that will fix about 16 of our worst streets. We are in the beginning phases of a sewer repair program that will be close to $1 million paid for out of our sanitary and storm sewer funds. At the beginning of this year, council passed ordinances which were supported by the mayor to begin saving money. We created line items for a rainy day fund, capital improvement fund, and street maintenance fund, where each year we will set aside a small percentage of income tax collections to build up our reserves and save for future projects without having to tap into our general fund. In addition, we set aside nearly $300,000 for the upcoming balloon payments for the ill-fated debt restructuring that happened a number of years ago. We also appropriated $50,000 for park improvements this year and an additional $100,000 for street maintenance such as crack sealing. This is all a very big deal, and the best part is now we can afford it. On top of all of this, we have spent a year working on and preparing for major development on Rockside Road with 2 separate developers. Combined, The project is over $150 million build-out that is coming to Seven Hills, and the taxes generated from this will well exceed $500,000 a year, not to mention the upcoming construction income tax revenue. There are so many other things that together we have all accomplished, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to list all of them. The reason I bring this up tonight is to demonstrate that all of your elected officials have been very busy and working hard on very complicated and complex things, and together we have been successful. Do we always agree with each other on how we should run this city? Absolutely not, nor should we. And frankly, I believe that's a very good thing. Having different ideas and opinions is beneficial for our city. One thing that I sometimes forget is that everyone on council and the mayor are so close to this that it becomes second nature to all of us. We know exactly what is happening daily in our city with every issue, and sometimes we forget that residents do not know the day-to-day happenings and intricacies of what we are doing. We have taken many steps to improve communication and the openness of our government. For the first time ever, we now broadcast these meetings live via YouTube. I record every audio of our meetings and upload it to my website. When issues arise, council members or the mayor distribute information at our expense to communicate. The hardest part of our job, in my opinion, is informing residents of what is going on. It certainly is not easy. We can say 10,000 words, and a handful of them will be taken out of context and negatively exploded on social media. No wonder nobody wants this job. This type of behavior hurts our city more than any individual. On occasion, we may get frustrated and say things that we do not mean. A couple weeks ago, I did that with Councilman Biassiata regarding an issue he casted a no vote on. I was frustrated with a number of things at that time, but it was no excuse. Last week, Councilman Biassiata and I met privately, and I expressed my regret to him for what transpired. We shook hands, and we both understood each other. Tony and I may not agree on everything, but we do on many things, and I know he cares about the future of our city. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have a brief comment?
Councilman Biassiata.
First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to write that letter. On a personal note, I appreciated you reaching out to me and the sentiment that you just read. But I'm going to kind of reiterate what I did at the last council meeting, that I'm going to stay positive, continue to work hard, put the citizens of Ward 1 first, and like we have all year, I'm going to look for common ground to work with you, Mr. President, and the rest of the council to make Seven Hills an even better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I look forward to working with you the rest of this term as well. Okay, with that, thank you for your patience, and we're going to get started with our regular meeting. Reading and disposal of our journal, the minutes of the regular council meeting held February 13th, 2017.
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Frondorf.
Having read the council minutes of the council meeting dated February 13th, I find no errors or omissions, and therefore I move that they be approved as printed.
I'll second that. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Minutes from the regular council meeting held February 13th, 2017 have been accepted. Now we will move on to the minutes of the special council meeting held February 21st, 2017.
Yes, Council President.
Councilman Frondor.
Having read the special council meeting minutes held for the meeting held on February 21st, 2017, I find no errors or omissions, and therefore I move that they be approved as printed.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Minutes from the special council meeting held February 21, 2017 have been passed. We'll now move on to the consent agenda dated March 13th, 2017.
Yes, Council President.
Councilman Frondorf.
If there's no division of the question, I move that we accept the consent agenda dated March 13th, 2017.
Second motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Consent agenda dated March 13th, 2017 is passed. Are there any resolutions of commendation?
There are none.
Okay, reports of committees. The Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee last met on February 21st. Those meeting minutes are on file with the clerk, and our next meeting is on March 20th. Public Works Committee, Councilman Petro.
Mr. Chairman, we met on March 6th, and the minutes are on file with the clerk.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councilman Bicker.
Mr. President, we met on March 6th. Meeting, minutes are pending, and our next meeting is April 3rd.
Thank you, Councilman. Police and Safety Committee, Councilman Kranek.
Mr. President, the last meeting of the Police and Safety Committee minutes are on file, and our next meeting will be March 20th.
Thank you, Councilman. Parks and Recreation, Councilman Kukrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next meeting will be March 20th, and the meeting minutes from our last meeting are forthcoming.
Thank you. Rules, Ordinances, and Ethics, Councilman Biassiata.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had two meetings relatively recently, February 21st and March 7th. The minutes from those meetings are on file with the secretary. Our next meeting will be April 3rd.
Thank you, Councilman. Finance, Civil Service, and Personnel, Councilman Frondor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Our last meeting was held on March 6th. The minutes are forthcoming, and our next meeting will be held on March 20th.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any appointments and confirmations?
Not this evening.
Thank you. Communications, petitions, and claims.
Yes, I have two items. The first is an email from Bob Robel dated March 12th, addressed to the mayor and copied to the clerk and the building commissioner. It's in reference to recent inspection experience. Dear Mayor Delaquila, I'm writing to describe a recent positive experience I had with building inspector Richard Vitardi when he came to my house to inspect the installation of a new electrical panel. Mr. Vitardi knew exactly what to look for and described each check as he performed them. Since my water heater was in the same area, he checked it and advised me as to what safety features should be included when I needed to have a new one installed. Mr. Vitardi also asked if I had any questions or concerns, and if there was anything I'd like him to check while he was there. I took advantage of his offer and had him check my furnace and air conditioner installations, since they were close to the areas he had come to inspect. He assured me everything was fine and advised me of a furnace repair scam that had been reported and how to provide additional weather protection for my outside air conditioning unit. All in all, Mr. Vitardi performed his work in an efficient, thorough, professional manner and was helpful and friendly in so doing. I was impressed by the knowledge and experience he brought to the job. I believe he is a valuable asset to the homeowners of Seven Hills, one that we should be reticent to lose for purely economic reasons. Sincerely, Robert Robel of Winchester Oval. The next item I'd like to read into the record is a communication from Assistant Director of Law and City Prosecutor Patrick DiCiro in regard to the next step after Council confirmed Mayor Delaquila's request for suspension of Planning Commission member Tom Jaros. It's a petition for removal of Tom Jaros from the Planning Commission. In Ray, the City of Seven Hills Council, the City of Seven Hills, 7325 Summit View Drive, Seven Hills, Ohio, 44131, petitioner, versus Thomas Jaros, 224 Crescent Ridge Drive, Seven Hills, Ohio, 44131, respondent. Now comes petitioner, the City of Seven Hills. The City of Seven Hills Council, by and through its Assistant Law Director and Prosecutor, Patrick DiCiro, and hereby files the following petition for removal of respondent, Thomas Jaros, a Planning Commission member, for the following reasons. 1. Respondent has exhibited a bias against a developer currently doing business in the City of Seven Hills and who has appeared before Planning Commission and Council, to wit. Respondent has continually posted negative comments on social media regarding Glenn's Landing LLC and Landsong Ltd., hereinafter referred to as developer, a developer currently doing business in the City of Seven Hills. Number 2, despite a clear bias by posting negative comments regarding the aforementioned developer and having engaged in recent litigation with the developer whereby respondent is a representative of Stone Ridge Maintenance Association. Respondent has been difficult about recusing himself from matters pertaining to developer and as indicated at the December 8th, 2016 Planning Commission meeting that he is not going to recuse himself any further. Number 3, respondent has maliciously interfered with contracts, permits of the developer by directly contacting the property owner of the property, which developer plans on developing, and by contacting the Army Corps of Engineers regarding developer's permit regarding the alleged wetlands location on the property to be developed. Number 4, respondent is engaging in actions and conduct beyond his scope and authority as a Planning Commission member. Number 5, respondent is engaging in conduct that places the City of Seven Hills in a vicarious situation, since respondent is an officer of the City of Seven Hills and subjects the City of Seven Hills to liability for respondent's actions. Number 6, respondent's actions are denying the developer its right to due process. It's just going off. Wherefore, petitioner requests that respondent be removed as a member of the City of Seven Hills Planning Commission due to misfeasance, bias, a violation of due process rights of a developer doing business in the City of Seven Hills, and any other matter that may come before council, which actions would disqualify respondent from his official duties as a Planning Commission member. Respectfully submitted, signed Patrick DeChiro, 7325 Summit View Drive, Seven Hills, Ohio 441, Assistant Director of Law, Prosecutor for Petitioner. Certificate of Service. This petition was served upon respondent Thomas Jaros at 224 Crescent Ridge Drive, Seven Hills, Ohio 44131 via the Seven Hills Police Department on the 9th day of March 2017. Again, signed Patrick DeChiro, Assistant Director of Law and Prosecutor for Petitioner. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Council will now be open to the audience on legislation only. If you have any comments regarding anything on our agenda, now is the time to approach the podium and please state your name and address. If you have comments that are not related to something on this agenda, there's another section for public comment later in the meeting. Is there anybody in the first row? Second, third, fourth, fifth? Okay, ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 20, 2017.
Mr. President,
Councilman Bicker.
I move that we suspend the rules under the charter and read ordinance 20-2017 by title only for its third and final reading.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 20, 2017, introduced by Mayor Delacuilla and Councilman Traffus, Frondor, Bicker, Kranek, Biassiata, Kukrow, and Petro. An ordinance to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Miller & Company Portable Toilet Service Incorporated of Canton, Ohio, to provide portable toilet service during the City of Seven Hills 2017 home days, July 28th and July 29, 2017, and authorizing an amount not to exceed $435 for said service.
Ordinance number 20, 2017 has been read for its third and final reading. Is there a motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Bicker.
I move that we pass ordinance 20-2017.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 20, 2017 has passed. Moving on to ordinance number 21, 2017.
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Frondor.
I move that we suspend the rules under the charter and read ordinance number 21, 2017 for its third and final reading.
Second motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 21, 2017, introduced by Councilman Traffus, Frondor, Bicker, Kranek, Biassiata, Kukrow, and Petro. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Miller and Company Portable Toilet Service Incorporated of Canton, Ohio, to provide portable toilet service for Summit View Commons, North Park, John Glenn Park, Calvin Park, and the City of Seven Hills Farmers Market, and authorizing an amount not to exceed $2,661.25 for said service.
Ordinance number 21, 2017 has been read for its third and final reading. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Frondor.
I move that we pass ordinance number 21, 2017.
Second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 21, 2017 has been passed. Moving on to ordinance number 22, 2017.
Mr. President,
Councilman Biassiata.
I move that we suspend the rules under charter and read ordinance number 22-2017 by title only for its third and final reading.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 22, 2017, introduced by Mayor Delacola and Councilman Traffus, Frondor, Bicker, Kranek, Biassiata, Kukrow, and Petro. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an agreement on behalf of the city of Seven Hills, Ohio, with Prime Pay of Westchester, Pennsylvania, for professional services for the 1095, 1094 mandated reporting year 2017 as a result of the Affordable Care Act, and authorizing an amount not to exceed $4,500 for said service.
Ordinance number 22, 2017 has been read for its third and final reading. Is there a motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Biassiata.
I move that we pass ordinance number 22-2017.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 22, 2017 is passed. We will now have the second reading of ordinance number 30, 2017.
Ordinance number 30, 2017, introduced by Councilman Traffus, Frondor, Bicker, Kranek, Biassiata, Kukrow, and Petro. An ordinance to amend section 707.01 definitions, .02 establishment and jurisdiction of city arborist, .03 master street tree plan adopted, .04 permit required, conditions for granting, .05 general tree and shrub regulations, .06 certain trees prohibited, .07 preservation and removal of trees on public property, .08 procedure upon order to preserve or remove, and 707.11 duties of private owners, as contained in Chapter 707 Streets, Trees of Title I, Streets and Sidewalks of Part 7, Street and Public Services Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Seven Hills, for the purpose of clarifying the responsibility for the maintenance of trees on tree lawns.
Ordinance number 30, 2017 has been read for its second reading. We now have the second reading of ordinance number 31, 2017.
Ordinance number 31, 2017, introduced by Councilman Traffus, Frondor, Bicker, Kranek, Biassiata, Kukrow, and Petro. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an agreement on behalf of the city of Seven Hills, Ohio, with the Board of Education of the Parma City School District of Parma, Ohio, to provide transportation for 2017 summer day camp field trips. Said agreement shall terminate August 31st, 2017, and authorizing an amount not to exceed $4,500 for said service.
Ordinance number 31, 2017 has been read for its second reading. Moving on to ordinance number 33, 2017.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kukrow.
I move that we suspend the rules under the charter and read ordinance number 33, 2017 for its first and final reading and declaring an emergency.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
I'm going to recuse myself. These are my brokers. And I
Okay.
just caught it. Sorry.
That's okay.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 33, 2017, introduced by Mayor Delacuilla and Councilman Traffus, Frondorf, Bicker, Kranek, Kukrow, and Petro. I'll remove your name as a sponsor, Mr. Biassiata.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract with Jackson Deacon and Associates of Westlake, Ohio, and appropriating a sum not to exceed $88,128 for the furnishing of comprehensive municipal liability coverage, automobile liability and physical damage coverage, public officials' errors and omissions, including employment practices liability, police professional liability, property, building and contents coverage, inland marine coverage, broad form crime coverage, EDP coverage, umbrella coverage, and boiler coverage effective April 1st, 2017 through March 31st, 2018, and declaring an emergency.
Ordinance number 33, 2017 has been read for its first and final reading. Is there a motion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Kukrow.
I move that we pass ordinance number 33, 2017.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Frondorf,
Yes.
Kranek,
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 33, 2017 has passed. Moving on to ordinance number 34, 2017.
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Frondor.
I move that we suspend the rules under the charter and read ordinance number 34, 2017 for its first and final reading and declaring an emergency.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 34, 2017, introduced by Councilman Traffus, Frondorf, Bicker, Kranek, Biassiata, Kukrow, and Petro. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a 36-month price agreement on behalf of the city of Seven Hills, Ohio, with ADP LLC of Roseland, New Jersey, for the procurement of payroll, tax filing, benefits administration, and other data processing services, authorizing an amount not to exceed $54,000 for said 3-year service, and declaring an emergency.
Ordinance number 34, 2017 has been read for its first and final reading. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman
I
Frondor.
move that we pass ordinance number 34, 2017.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 34, 2017 is passed. Moving on to ordinance number 35, 2017.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Petro.
I move that council suspends the rules under the charter and reads ordinance 35, 2017 by title only and declaring an emergency.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 35, 2017, introduced by councilpersons Traffus, Frondorf, Bicker, Kranek, Biassiata, Kukrow, and Petro. An ordinance to amend section 1121.03A, compensation of the building commissioner, as contained in chapter 1121, administration of Title III, local building provisions of Part 11 Building Code of the codified ordinances of the city of Seven Hills, for the purpose of memorializing that the part-time building commissioner's position is up to and not exceeding 29 hours per week, and declaring an emergency.
Ordinance number 35, 2017 has been read for its first and final reading. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Petro.
I move that council passes ordinance 35, 2017.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor.
Yes.
Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Ordinance number 35, 2017 is passed. We will now have the first reading of ordinance number 36, 2017.
Ordinance number 36, 2017, introduced by Councilman Traffus, Frondor, Kranek, Bicker, Biassiata, Kukrow, and Petro. An ordinance to amend the appropriations of the city of Seven Hills, Ohio for the year ending December 31st, 2017.
Ordinance number 36, 2017 has been read for its first reading. Council will now be open to the audience. If you have any comments, please approach the podium and state your name and address.
Ron Grayheck, 1172 John Glenn Drive. Mr. Biassata, I would like to thank you for doing the right thing and providing me with emails from your constituents that all said no to a full-time mayor. You have done the right thing. You have no friends on council. More importantly, you have the support of your constituents who will put you in office and keep you there for a long time. I would also like to thank council for all the backing that they gave us on the jackasses when Jerry Travis was berating us in council chambers. All my jackass friends now know what you think of us. I would also like to thank Matt and Jerry Travis for the gift that keeps on giving. We don't have to look anywhere for ammunition. We keep getting it for nothing. Mr. Kranek, I would like to extend my condolence on the death of your brother. I know how it is to lose someone that close. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody further in the first row?
Tom Juris, 224 Crescent Ridge Drive. I have a statement here before I get to that. The announcement that Carol Sakarik, the letter that Carol Sakarik read, actually, appreciated hearing those allegations again. One thing that was left out of Mr. DeChiro's communication is that I requested a hearing, and that's supposed to happen on March 25th at 9 o'clock. And should be amusing to say the least. Show up, bring popcorn, I'll buy coffee afterwards. I have some comments regarding recently seen actions and inactions at council meetings. On February 27th, former Mayor Jerry Travis, at a council caucus meeting with all 7 councilmen and a handful of residents in attendance, announced that, and I quote, "Half of Seven Hills residents are horses, asses, and ignorant." That remark was made in reference to those who opposed adding $60,000 to the cost of Seven Hills government by making the mayor's job full-time. His remark was met with silence from council. Guess everybody agreed about the residents and their state of ignorance. On March 3rd, at a broadcasted council meeting, Council President Matt Travis derided, demeaned, and threatened Ward 1 Councilman Tony Biassiata for voting against putting the full-time mayor issue on the spring ballot. Councilman Biassiata stated that his no vote was cast in response to received constituent input. Way to go, Tony. Councilman Biassiata acted in support of his oath of office, and Councilman Travis verbally abused him for doing so. Councilman Travis likes to refer to getting facts straight when criticizing posters on social media, which he actually did again today in the process of apologizing to Councilman Biassiata. He trashed residents who posted things that he didn't like on social media. You should stop reading social media if you can't take it. Here are some, in my opinion, irrefutably straight facts, because we want to get our facts straight for Councilman Travis. Number 1, Councilman Travis was derelict in his duty as council president to maintain order at the council meeting when he attacked residents and Councilman Biassiata on March 3rd. Pay attention, go back, listen to the movie. Residents got trashed in there. Councilman Travis was derelict in his duty to represent all Seven Hills residents when he directly and indirectly attacked and demeaned residents during that attack on Councilman Biassiata on March 3rd. Number 3, Councilman Travis was derelict in his duty to adhere to the democratic principles on which our entire country was founded when he publicly demeaned and berated residents and Councilman Biassiata from his seat on council. Freedom of speech is part of that democracy thing, guys. Some have suggested that Councilman Traffus apologize to Councilman Biassiata. I agree that an apology is in order. Hope you're satisfied with what you got, Tony. But in view of Councilman Traffus's past and current assaults on the democratic process, an apology would fall far short of being a proper resolution. His guilty plea to dereliction of duty charges brought by the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation cost $6,000 per a moral claim approved by council. Instead of an apology or a reasonable explanation of the charge of dereliction of duty, Councilman Traffus offered his statement that residents wouldn't believe the behind-the-scenes details that resulted in his prosecution. In my opinion, his prosecution resulted from a failed political stunt that sought to discredit the administration and Mayor Delaquila in particular. And taxpayers are left holding the bag for $6,000 as unanimously approved by council with his request for a moral claim. You guys paid for the political stunt with our money. The only other recourse, a number of residents, me included, have suggested that Councilman Traffus should resign. Others have suggested he should be removed from council. This is happening on social media, which nobody reads except Councilman Traffus. Council does have the power to remove him, but this council has already demonstrated its willingness to reward dereliction of duty by those in their number. As councilman, it's okay, put in a moral claim, we'll pay for it. Violate all the law you want. The only other recourse left to residents is a recall action to remove Councilman Traffus from Seven Hills government. A number of residents are prepared to sponsor that recall petition. Those who believe that Councilman Traffus's berating and demeaning of residents for exercising their right to freedom of speech and expressing their opinions are invited to participate in getting approximately 1,200 signatures to force a recall action. Those willing to participate are invited to send an email to recalltraffus@gmail.com. Please note that I have not, everybody here, anybody watching, I have not asked any question of Councilman Traffus or council during my statement. Didn't ask for anything, offering my opinion. I simply delivered my opinions and those of other residents. No response is sought or required from council. Not asking anybody to say a word. But, as is his common practice of late, I'll expect Councilman Traffus to cast further aspersions on my character with his statement that council has been advised by the law department to not speak to Tom Jarvis. See that statement as another confirmation of Councilman Traffus's ever-present intent to stifle the voices of those who would disagree with him. Thank you to everybody.
Anybody remaining in the first row? Second row?
Jen Selesnikar, 3313 Forest Overlook Drive. So I don't typically have time to come here to these meetings because I have 3 kids, full-time nurse. However, in recent light of seeing the last council meeting, I had to make it a point to be here. I am supposed to be at work right now. That's how important this was to me. I am thankful to have Jim Kukral as my ward. He reaches out, he runs his Facebook page very well, doesn't criticize if you don't disagree with him. I appreciate that, Jim. I appreciate everything you do for us and everything that you've done since you've taken council. Doreen also, your wife, I appreciate everything she does for the Parma City School District. She is very active in that. As for that, this is a letter that I wrote, an open letter. Mr. Matt Traffus, I would like to take some time to address your recent statement that you made to Mr. Tony Bisciotti, the Ward 1 councilman. I am angered and outraged by your blatant bullying behavior. As you know, Mr. Traffus, I am a mother of 3 and a registered nurse. As a mother, I do not tolerate bullying, nor does the school district. As a professional nurse, the hospital does not tolerate workplace bullying either. There is zero tolerance. Anyone that is found to be bullying is terminated. With that being said, I would like to address a few things. First off, even if you didn't agree with Mr. Bisciotti's opinions on the way he votes, you blindsided and attacked him publicly, and it was completely uncalled for. That discussion should have been reserved for a private, constructive conversation. The manner in which you carried yourself was childish and not that of what a leader or the president of a council should carry themselves. Your opening words, and I'm going to quote this, "Our job as councilmen is to protect the public trust, to be a voice of City Hall for our residents, and to involve residents in the decision-making process as much as we can." I'm going to stress that last line, okay? Involve residents in the decision-making process as much as we can. You stated this, but then called Mr. Bisciotti out for voting no. Let's face it, he did listen to his residents. He sent out an email and asked his residents' opinions. Based on the response, he listened to his residents and voted no. Both you and Mr. Kukral are aware that I am 100% against a full-time mayor at this point. We've had discussions on social media regarding that. I have made this very clear. You stated that you don't buy his emails. Well, I question the same about you, Mr. Traffus. You were asked to produce your so-called emails, but still have not. I am going to re-request proof of your emails with timestamps prior to the first request. In closing, I would like Mr. Bisciotti to know that as a resident of Ward 3, I appreciate him listening to his residents, as I have many family members who live in your ward. I would also like to let Mr. Traffus know that since he has set the standard of threats, I am going to follow his example, not by threatening, but I will call you out every single time you act unprofessional in a bullying manner. I will be here, even if it means calling off of work. Just the same way you told Mr. Bisciotti you will do. I will be there to make sure you never are elected mayor, which is the entire reason why you are pushing so hard for a full-time mayor. It is very clear to everyone. You are trying to line up a nice paycheck for yourself in the future. That's my opinion. In my opinion, you should also be removed from council effective immediately for your poor behavior and bullying ways. I do not want someone like you representing me and all of my family that lives in Seven Hills, along with the rest of the residents in Seven Hills. Even after your statement at the beginning of the meeting, which to me was just another way to cover up, seeing as how you saw everyone on social media talking about this. We have a great city, and the new council has done some great things, including balancing the budget. That should definitely be recognized. However, poor attitudes and bullying behavior is not that of a leader. That's the behavior of a dictator. Please know that I will be voting no for a full-time mayor and will be encouraging other residents to do the same. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else in the second row?
I don't have a long one. Ken Brzezinski, 1711 Cherry Lane. Before I start, I do want to say that council has done a lot of great things for our city, no doubt, and I appreciate that. But Council President Traffus, I'm very disappointed in your behavior at that meeting that we're talking about on March 2nd when you chastised Councilman Biassiata. My opinion, you're very wrong in doing so because he voted no. Why do we vote at all if we can't vote no? You said that that there was a trend of voting no. He voted no in July 2016, and he voted no in February of 2017. That's a trend. You also called him a liar about his emails without knowing anything. You're way out of line. And I hope you don't continue to call him out, as you stated. You're way out of line, with all due respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody further in the second row?
Martha Whitmer, 6100 Crossview. I want to thank Tony for being councilman on Ward 1. We've had several discussions about the need for, not the need for a full-time mayor. And he is a good listener and has been very supportive and answering questions with all the Rockside development that's going in. After listening to your letter today, I would expect from here on out, everyone on council would be respectful to each other and none of the bullying, etc. And also, excuse me, that they would be respectful to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody further in the second row? Third row?
Ed McKenna, 1908 Ridgeview. I'm hearing a lot of, I just want to thank council, including Biassiata, for respecting the democratic process, which the democratic process in this country is not, hey, I tell you that this is my opinion on an issue, and now I expect you to vote because I told you this, and I said I represent 6 of my neighbors, and this is how we feel. We decide by putting it on a ballot and voting on it. And just consistent, like I said a couple years ago with the deer issue, we don't decide it before it gets to the ballot. We put it on the ballot and we vote. Now, I respect Councilman Biassiata's opinion, but I don't expect any councilman up here to have me call them up and then say, hey, he just gave my opinion. My one constituent, 2, 3, 4, 10, 100 spoke. Now I can take away the right of the rest of the people. So even if, even if everybody, and I know, Tony, you didn't say that, in Ward 1 said vote no, there's 3 other wards that maybe didn't say that. So we vote as a city. That's democracy. Yes, we have freedom of speech. What we do not have in this country, and I know a little bit about freedom of speech. I've had some experience with it. We don't have freedom of consequences. When we say things, there are consequences for them. I have the right to say all kinds of absurd things or accusing things or bullying things, but there will be consequences of it. And anyone who thinks that what occurred here was bullying should really watch C-SPAN and watch our Congress or our Senate or, God forbid, the British Parliament, because that was play school compared to that. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anybody further in the third row?
Hi, I'm on a separately different subject. My name's Jan Boscarello. I live at 6454 Crossview. Unfortunately, I don't do a lot of social media, and the last year I've been dealing with cancer, so I've been pretty uninformed. I've been like out of the loop. And I was just really surprised when houses started getting ripped down on Crossview. I had no idea that there was going to be an outlet from the Rockside Road development onto Crossview. But I understand tonight I learned that there was a meeting last summer. Unfortunately, I was in the hospital.
Right.
So, but I know really nothing about this project and what it entails, when it starts. Do you have does the developer have tenants going in there before they've committed to this? I mean, the houses are ripped down. Is it going to be like the development that's the strip that's near Walgreens on Rockside, where it's still half empty?
It's a very complicated development, and it would require more than just a couple minutes of conversation. And I'd be more than pleased to get together with you and show you some maps and whatnot. And as a matter of fact, the owner of the development just walked in, and I'm sure Jeff Grafe, who will raise his hand and wave, will talk with you after the meeting as well. And I definitely can explain a lot about it, but it would take a lot of time.
Okay. But there is going to be an outlet
There's gonna
to
be-
Rockside?
2 outlets on Crossview. The one where the O'Donnell house was across the street from the Dairy Deli roughly will be an emergency access street. It will be gated and only ambulances, fire trucks, and police cars will be able to go in and out of that. The second one will be further north, closer to Rockside, where a couple of the houses got knocked down.
And then the light at Rockside and Crossview, is there going to be changes in the?
There will be some changes. There are potential plans for actually making that section of Crossview larger. We're adding a turn lane, but none of that is set in stone just yet.
Thank you.
Anybody further in the 3rd row? 4th row? 5th row?
My name is Rich Knight, 770 Aspenwood Drive. Really, I like whoever started this YouTube stuff for council. I think they did a super job. I don't know who introduced it, all 7 U's, the mayor might have did it, I don't know, but I think it's great. Also, I like the idea that the previous president of council limited to 5 minutes or so, maybe 3 minutes. Retired from the Plain Dealer for 43 years. One of my former coworkers was trying to talk. She cut him off rudely. She's no longer here. The voters got rid of her. And then a police officer came up. Well, he was a perfect gentleman. And finally, the person from the Plain Dealer, a writer, said, well, they ain't worth the argument. The voters spoke. The voters also spoke to eliminate a lot of those people and put the contract, I call them the contract boys. That is my slang personally for the 5 of you gentlemen, which by the way, all 7 U's are doing a fantastic job. I really thought this was going to be a council meeting. It looks like a political witch hunt. That's what I call it. But again, that's my opinion. People say things they don't mean. To err is human. To forgive is divine. And I'm not a religious person, but I heard that going through school and everything. People say things they don't mean. They're upset. They had a bad day at the office. They came home, their girlfriends are angry at them, their wives are angry at them, or whatever. To chastise Mr. Traffus and say, you got to resign, you have to turn around, and we're going to vote you out, we're going to have a special election. If there is a special election, who pays for that election? Me, the taxpayer, or the person that wants a special election, and how much would it cost? Does anybody know that?
If there was a recall election, it would be on the city's nickel, and I believe the ballpark figure, and if somebody knows better, I think it's $5,000 per ward. I think. So it'd be about $20,000.
About $20,000 of part of my money.
My figure might not be 100% accurate, but I think it's close to that. And yes, it'd be taxpayer money.
Now, people talk about wasting money. I think that's nothing but a waste. We don't need that. This city, from the previous council administration, have moved so far, so fast, and accomplished so much. It's unbelievable. And I watch. Now, I like the idea with YouTube. I really don't like coming up here, especially today, with all the snow we're expecting. I watch it on a Sunday afternoon in my sweatpants, and I enjoy it. But I came to council meetings. Now, I only lived here 10.5 years. And for a lot of these gentlemen and ladies here, they got 40, 50 years on me living. They lived here all their life, so I'm sort of the rookie. But I came here for my first council meeting with Benkowski. Mr. Benkowski was, and I think the mayor was, Mayor, were you president of council at one time when Mayor Benkowski was here? Possibly, okay. Well, that council, or the last council,
They were driving the city down. They all had carte blanche. And you guys got together and said, we're going to tighten our belts. And that's what you have to do. Now, you're going to make everybody happy? No, you're not. You're not going to make everybody happy. But what's good for the entire city and all the residents? That's the important thing this council has to think about. And as for the fit of rage, it's going to happen. It's human nature to get upset for whatever reason. Now, yes, there's professional standards, there's ethics. Previous council apparently didn't have ethics, in my opinion only, and I quit going there. But all I could say, gentlemen, keep doing what you're doing. You're on the right road. This city is making money. And being a former military police officer, maybe I'm biased, but I feel that our safety forces are extremely strong. The police department is probably one of the best police departments. I'd put them up against in the state of Ohio, because being in law enforcement, I know what to look for. Just because I'm driving down the road, when you're, whether military or civilian, in law enforcement, you're never out of it. It's in your blood. Yeah, you have a separation of service like I did, but am I retired from it? No. I'm constantly watching. And same with the fire department. We got some of the best fire department and paramedics. My wife's godfather lived with us a couple years ago, and they were Johnny on the spot. I mean, yes, sorry to say he passed away, but he was in his 90s. And they responded professionally. So whatever you guys are doing, you're going to have negative comments. Ignore them. Keep doing what you're doing. The city is moving in a forward direction. We're making money. We're getting stronger. By all means, all 7 of you, keep working together and go from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody further tonight?
Carol Paladin, 3185 Sparrow Flag Drive. I really wanted to see a lot of good things happen in the city, and I've seen people work well together. I've also seen people become very frustrated. I would like to remind those sitting there that you have a rule. It's called Rule 26 Decorum. It indicates that those sitting in positions of power are not to call out others by name sitting there. I have witnessed that, and I've been disappointed, and I've said nothing. And I believe that since I've said nothing and others have said nothing, it escalated. It escalated with the frustration. I am accepting apologies if Mr. Tony accepts them, and I think it was the best thing to do. But I too might call out any infringement upon that Rule 26. I honor that rule. I honor these residents. I give you quite a bit of respect. So I'm asking you, please review Rule 26. In fact, 2 of you were given credit for being saved, so to speak, last council by bringing up Rule 26. So please honor that in the future, and then maybe there will be less aggravation and frustration from the residents, and respect will become a two-way street again. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol, I want to address that real quick if you don't mind. I know exactly what you're talking about. And that ordinance came about in, I think it was 2015, maybe. And that ordinance also addresses what residents comment as well. And I don't run meetings like that. I let everybody come up and say whatever they want, regardless of how I feel about it. If we were to enforce that rule, we'd have to enforce it on residents as well. So perhaps, maybe we put it in Rules Committee, Councilman, and we can talk about how to tighten that up a little bit, but I appreciate your comments about that. Is there anybody? I'm sorry?
I believe it's already in there.
I understand that, and my point is that
I mean, from our position, I believe it's already in there.
it is. My point is that if we enforce that rule, which we certainly could, we would have to enforce it on residents as well. And I couldn't even imagine what would happen if we tried to enforce that. I mean, right. I mean, it's a two-way street. I'm sorry? Well, that's your opinion. And, you know, I'm just going to leave it at that. Anybody further tonight? I'm sorry, sir. Please approach the podium. Thank you.
Ron Grayheck, 1172 John Glenn Drive. Mr. Frondorf used it against you, against when Michelle Ernst, when you were berating her, and he got up, I was at the meeting, we have it on film, and he got up and said, point of order.
Did you do that to me?
Damn right.
We'll show you the film we have. No, I'm not disputing you got something on tape, but I'm. Short memory.
All right, is there anybody further in the audience that hasn't spoken yet?
Straighten this out.
Mr. Roble hasn't spoken yet. He has the podium now.
Thank you, Mr. Travis.
You're welcome.
Okay, Bob Roble, 975 Winchester Oval. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I've heard tonight. Maybe a little different approach, and I want to take you through kind of a decision-making approach that I would take, and let's do it in the context of the ordinance to put the full-time mayor on the ballot. Okay. First of all of you up there must make a decision. I mean, the people who elected you put a certain amount of trust in you to make that decision. So people who are saying, well, you know, oh, if you vote no, you're denying the whole population of Seven Hills the right to decide the issue. Well, okay, that's not really true. Okay, we don't have that democracy. Not everything has to, we don't have town meetings where everybody does that. Okay, so that means that every one of you have to decide whether or not you think that this ordinance is a good ordinance, whether it's timely, whether there are maybe some things wrong with it. You know, get back to that in a minute here. So sometimes we seek advice on making the decision. We may think one way, and all of a sudden, maybe we hear from just one person who has a compelling argument that is contrary to what you think, okay? And it's so convincing that you say, hey, I got to go that way, okay? So it doesn't take, we're not looking here for the number of emails. All it takes is one. And, you know, one compelling argument. And we'll get back to that. I think there are some things wrong with this ordinance. I think it was rushed through. There are some things that probably might cause its defeat. It didn't go through committee. There are some questions about uh, the salary arrangement. Some of this stuff, there should have been more discussion of this. Discussion started on, informally in caucus a few months ago. My recall is that was before the first of the year, but I might be wrong about that. So there was plenty of time to do this. Now granted, okay, you don't have to do that, but it sure would have been nice to do that. That way in committee meeting, when you have hearings, you get to hear all of these things. You get to hear the input from people. And maybe that makes your decision a little bit better. Had I been voting on this, I probably would have voted no too, because I did have some problems with it. If I do that, you know, am I depriving the people of Seven Hills from a vote? No. I want them to vote on something that's really good. And maybe we need to take the time, particularly since we have the time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that has not spoken yet that would like to speak? Okay, we're going to move on to reports and communications from the Mayor and Safety Director. Mayor Delaquila stepped out. Can we get back to him? Do we have to amend the agenda or anything? Okay. Reports from directors of departments and other officials. Director of Law, Richard Pignatello. Thank you. Director of Public Service and Properties, Stuart Levis.
Yes, Mr. President. My condolences to Councilman Kraniak on his loss. Very sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Council miscellaneous. Let's start in the middle today. Councilman Kukrow.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to say a big thank you to the Basketball Federation. This week, they had their Seven Hills annual shootout tournament, and they renamed it to the George Chandic Annual Shootout Classic. The mayor was there. He made a nice speech and a nice presentation to the family on Saturday in front of a lot of people. And Councilman Tony Biasata was there, and Matt Trafis were there. I was there as myself because my son was playing in the championship game right after that. But it was a great event to honor a great man who's done a lot for the city. Speaking of that, I want to give a big congratulations to the 4 Seven Hills teams who actually won their respective bracket tournaments in championships in the tournament this weekend. That includes the 3 and 4 boys and girls and the 5 and 6 boys and girls teams, all Seven Hills teams. Teams from all over Northeast Ohio participated in the tournament, and I'm happy to see that Seven Hills represented with not only wins, and this is really important, we represented with class from our players, our coaches, and our parents. There were no incidents, and everybody walked out of there saying, boy, this is a nice town you live in and a nice program that you have. That happens every year with that tournament. So it really was an amazing weekend for Seven Hills, and I feel the pride when I go to these events and I see people coming in from all over the other areas around, other cities around us, and they walk away and they say good things about us, and that makes me feel good. So thank you to everybody who participated in that. All right, I want to talk about something that I've been talking about for a while in terms of our parks. Now, many of you are probably not aware that we have a men's adult softball league that has been using our field at Valleywood for over 20 years. They occupy the field every Sunday for about 3 months during the summer. Right now, we charge the men's league a total of $150 total for their entire season. They have 8 to 10 teams of 15 players each. That's 150 men aged 40 to 60 who use Valleywood, a city field, every Sunday for 3 months over the summer. Now, if you run the numbers, that equates to each player, a 40, 60-year-old man, pays the city a total of 70 cents to play, to use our fields for the entire season. Before 4 years ago, when the city started charging the league $150 a year, they weren't even charged to use the field at all, ever. It's been going on for over 20 years. So in other words, this group of men have basically been using a city field for free for over 20 years. They wear and tear by these 150 men using the field over that time has cost the city tens of thousands of dollars in equipment and field repair costs and service hours of taxpayer money. Not to mention the electricity cost to run the lights and the scoreboard. Now, I don't bring this up to say anything negative about the men's league. It's not their fault they weren't asked to pay. I mean, they're not going to volunteer, hey, we'll give you some money so we can use your field. I bring this up because I want to point out the city cannot continue to subsidize grown men to play softball, in my opinion. Now, youth sports, yes. We can and we will continue to do what we can to help recreational youth players of all ages and gender learn team sports and physical fitness. But we're not going to continue to do that for grown men who can certainly afford a few bucks out of their own pocket to play a baseball game or a softball game. That's why I reached out to the men's league organizer and I explained to him that we're going to have to start charging him for the use of the city field. And he agreed. And he understands that we need to do so. The question for us was then, how much do we charge for that? So I did a little research on some other fields and programs around the area, and I came up with what I think is a fair price, and I proposed to the league that they pay the city $200 per team. And they're very open to this. And if they accept that, the city would make $2,000 per season instead of $150 total. Now, consider the recent improvements we're making at Valleywood to the tune of just around $15,000. Because we will now be charging the men's league, we can make back the cost of the field improvements in just about 7 or 8 years or so. It should also be noted that a big reason we can now charge for the field use is the improvements we are making. The field has been in such bad condition, it would have been very difficult to ask anyone to actually pay to use it. They would have gone to a field in a much better condition in a different city if they had to pay. My point. Improving Valleywood is a great example of how the city can begin to recoup tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money by charging to use the fields, just like all of the other cities around us do. I'm also working with the scheduling person from the Federation, Baseball Federation, to see if we can open Valleywood up to another league for another day of the week. If we can do that, we can attract another league to come and play. And if we are successful in doing so, we can expand our fee programs for our fields. The city could be generating close to $4,000 a year in revenue. Now, $4,000 a year over 5 years is $20,000. Over 10 years, that's $40,000. Now, imagine if we were able to do the same improvements to the other 3 fields at Calvin and our other field here at City Hall. Now you have the opportunity to attract tournament fees from travel teams and travel team fees for usage of the fields, potentially earning the city $10,000 to $15,000 a year or more in fees that you could work to pay off the fields in a few short years, and then help pay future service workers to maintain our parks and also pay for new playground equipment and other parks improvements. My point is, improving our fields is more than about baseball. It's revenue. This is simply good business. It's in the process of doing this type of thinking and thinking about and implementing these types of things, our youth players get safer, more reliable, and better quality fields to learn on. And our residents feel like we're taking care of them and showing them that we care about our kids and our parks. I'm also working on proposing legislation to council that would distribute all future field fees we incur to be dedicated to the Parks Fund and keep it out of the general fund. If we can make this happen, we can begin to find additional ways to fund our parks for years to come and not have to rely on dipping into our general fund, which I think is a good thing we could do. Finally, I want to thank all the people who have been giving me feedback on these issues, my plans for our parks. I've listened to your ideas and concerns, and I'm grateful for your passion. I hope now you can see why I've taken the path I have proposed in many meetings. There is a plan here. If we continue down this road, I'm suggesting we're setting ourselves up for years of funding to improve our parks. And at the end of the day, the return on investment for our parks will pay off in not only revenue to fund future parks projects and playgrounds and walking tracks and you name it, but also in helping bring new families to the city. The last comment I want to make is just in regards to Jen and a couple things you guys said here. I'm not defending anyone, but I will just say this from my own personal experience. When we all got elected up here together, it's a bonding experience, and it becomes like almost an instant fraternity up here because you're all here facing out here, but we're all together. And the best way I can explain it is it's like going to a family dinner, except the family dinner has an audience, right? Would you want your family Christmas dinner broadcast on YouTube and people watching you in the audience? You have disagreements. Nobody wants to see that. And that's basically what happens in situations like this, in my opinion. Sometimes things can get a little bit different. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you for your work with the parks. Let's move backwards on our agenda and recognize the Mayor and Safety Director for his reports and communications. Mayor Delacola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the opportunity. I was called away unavoidably to manage an important city matter. It went well. I'll report to council, and I appreciate the indulgence of allowing me to make a very brief statement at this point. We had a meeting today, myself, the Chief of Police, Jen Berger, our Rec Director, Tony Terry, our Director of Community Services, and Kathy Holland. It was regard to the Do Not Knock program. We are going to be revitalizing the way our residents are encouraged to sign for that program. We're going to be doing some things to make the database a little more user-friendly, and we are going to start a promotion to encourage as many of our residents as possible to participate in that very important program. Our police are very supportive of our residents being able to limit those who would be soliciting them unannounced at their front and side and back doors, but also to put out information to those who might be interested in soliciting in our city that notifies them, especially with regard to those who have opted not to receive such unwanted solicitations, and to make that list as long as possible and as accessible as possible, because it's probably not something we want to be encouraging in today's world, to have people just showing up unannounced at our doors. So with that, Mr. President, I thank you again for allowing me to make that very brief statement. We'll be putting more out on that later.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the update on that. Let's do Councilman Petro. Turn your mic on.
I'd just like to give my condolences to the Kraniak family and you, Tom, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Frondorf.
I'd also like to express my condolences to Tom and your family. I did have just a brief comment or two about the budget. And today you heard that we had the first reading. Well, the reason that it hasn't been passed, we have until March 31st to submit it to the county. And it's a very long, laborious process. And I've been through the budget probably 5 times, and every time I go through it, I find something that needs to be tweaked, corrected, adjusted. And this weekend, I had the same thing happen, and I emailed our finance director, and we'll be cleaning it up. And the way I look at it, it's kind of housekeeping. There was also there's good news in that the budget is balanced. There's also good news, and I've been saying we're about $300,000 to the good. I'm going to revise that. We're 200,000 plus to the good, because there have been some expenses that have come to light that were not included in the original budget. We've had some adjustments. Today, for example, we learned that our ADP contract increased slightly, so we've got to make that adjustment. It's things like that happen. So at any rate, the good news is that we are well north of $200,000, and I'd like to thank the gentleman that made the comment, that we're on the right track. I believe it. We've literally within 1 year, within one budget year, we've gone from $1 million deficit to a 200,000 plus surplus, and that wasn't done without a lot of hard work and a lot of faith that our residents placed in 2 initiatives. One, the fire department levy, and the other one, the income tax increase. So to our residents that are out there listening, you were a very large part in this. On top of that, how we achieved this in 1 year, essentially last year we were able to knock out about 400,000 from the budget. And this year, it's a little bit north of 200,000 that we trimmed from the initial budget offering. So a lot of hard work, but hard work pays off, and we are definitely on the right path. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Biassiata.
Thank you, Mr. President. First off, my deepest condolences to Councilman Kranek. My family is the most important thing in my life, and I can't imagine what you're going through. So you have my sympathies. And if there's anything I could do, let me know. Change subjects real quick. I won't go over the Seven Hills Basketball Federation as much as Councilman Kukrow did, but I had the pleasure of attending several games this year, and I want to shout out to the organizers of that league. I thought it was exceptionally well run. The passion of the coaches, the fans, the number of games, the quality of the games, first class institution, and I'm glad Seven Hills is able to benefit from that. Last, but certainly not least, I'd like to thank all the residents that showed up today. Whether you agree with me or not agree with me, you are all an important part of the process. So thank you for your participation, and thank you for this opportunity, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Bicker.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to offer my condolences to Tom. And I would like to thank everybody here who came to share your opinions. And I want to point out that Matt was the pioneer allowing more than 3 minutes at that podium, so he does allow dissidents. And finally, I want to say, I work a blue-collar job, and I went 25 years without a single call-off. And I cannot keep up with Matt. If we ever lost Matt as council president, we would take a major blow on council. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kraniak.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to thank all the people who have offered their condolences and prayers at the untimely loss of my brother, and I appreciate it at a time like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. I too want to express my sympathies to you and your family, Tom, for the loss of your brother. We've accomplished a lot this past year, all of us. $200,000 surplus this year compared to $1 million deficit last year. An upcoming $3 million road program. An upcoming approximate $1 million sewer program. $50,000 for parks, $100,000 for street maintenance, which is mainly for crack sealing. We created a rainy day fund, a capital improvement fund, a street maintenance fund, where a percentage of annual income tax collections will be appropriated. We just bought a new police car. We are bringing home days back. We got a senior bus, a new senior bus. We're in the process of exploring hiring new police officers and firefighters. We just obtained recently a roughly $1.1 million grant for the Hemlock Creek project to lower the assessments for homeowners. It's been an incredible year for this council and this administration, and I thank every person on this dais for the work that they have done, and I'm extremely proud of everything that we've achieved. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Biassiata.
Yes.
Frondor. Kranek.
Yes.
Kukrow.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Traffus.
Yes.
Bicker.
Yes.
Meeting's adjourned. That was fun.
Yeah, we filled up today. Yeah. We're gonna order more. lot of Tony, yeah, Tony contacted, Tony from the car yards. So I don't know. They're gonna try to work something out. They're gonna want their money. They're gonna want their money. He used about 2,500 tons, not 8,000.
I'm just thinking, no, I forgot. Okay. If you were wondering what happened to your cat, I grabbed it. I'm okay. I just wanted you to know that I returned.
I am.